apply those lessons of morality that you've learned in your own pathway in faith. Matter of fact, that, in my opinion, that makes one a stronger leader and one able to work better across the aisle or working with different citizens of different religious faiths.
Thank you very much. So there is a quote, and I don't own the quote, but I've been saying it so many times. Whoever the owner is, hopefully doesn't get me for it. But leadership is not left or right. It's up and down. And what I've learned as the mayor of the town of Purcellville, sometimes you need to step down to the lowliest of depth and rise people up, right? So we can bicker all we want about Republican, Democrat, what faith you're in. But as our sister said from the Sikh ministry, that God is in everything, but most importantly, God is in everyone. Once we realize that, we see the needy as someone or some others that we need to lift up. And so regardless of religion, in a town, if you see a need, you go and meet the need and fulfill it.
My experience is over the past 30 years, we've seen political partisanship perhaps surpass all other differences that tend to drive people apart. And so what I've always loved to see is faith try to counter that and bring people back together. Senator Tim Kaine is, I think, a rare individual because not many people on my side of the political aisle, and I'm a Democrat, will espouse their faith as openly as he does. And he has said Democrats should not be afraid of saying their faith. My friends on the Republican side seem to do a better job often of speaking of their faith openly, and I give them a lot of credit for that. But I have found one of the best ways to work with people on both sides of the aisle is to always be willing to meet with them, regardless of their political beliefs or their party affiliation. And you learn so much from that in the same way that I have learned a great deal about other faiths by getting to know people who are of other faiths. It was a stunning shock to me when I attended the groundbreaking of the congregation Shar Shalom in Leesburg many years ago. And I will never forget that a member of that synagogue came up to me afterwards and said, you cannot understand, unless you're Jewish, how important this is to us, because for decades and decades, we had to hide the fact that we were Jews in Loudoun County because the prejudice against us was so strong. I had no clue. I'm a Christian, I'm not Jewish, and I had no idea of how harsh their experience had been here in Loudoun County. And I think just sitting down and talking with people about their very different experiences is so critical for anyone in our position, or for anyone who wants to be involved and make this county a better place.
Kristen, you touched on this a little bit already with your comments on Senator Kaine. I want to ask, how have you seen shared ideals with religious origins successfully expressed in the public square?
Oh, anyone?
You can go any order, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Whoever likes the question best.
Oh, no, that's good. So how have I seen that expressed in the public?
How have you seen that successfully done, or just along the lines of what Mayor Stat's saying with Senator Kaine?
Yeah, there is So let me start with this. When we hear mention of history of this country and Loudoun County, right? Today I did hear that the church was the center of a lot of towns throughout the United States, right? Not far from those churches were marketplace where people of my color were sold, right? So getting back to your question, there is a need for us to always remember the truth and also talk about it in a loving way, right? And they say truth without love is brutality, right? That's where you have people burning at the stake and all of this stuff, right? But love without truth is hypocrisy. So we need to blend the two together as leaders, or else we'll be ended up in nowhere. We'll have brutality and we'll have a lot of hypocrisy, right? We can believe in love but not accept the truism in it. So as leaders, we need to embrace both and we need to balance both, if that makes sense.
Definitely.
Amen.
I agree with everything my friend Quasi said, and I'm thinking as a student of history, I sometimes think of brighter men and women than me who said things better than I can ever articulate. And even though I was only 4 years old at the time, when President Kennedy gave his inaugural address, do you remember how he ended it? The last words in that inaugural address, he said, asking for the blessings of divine providence to oversee the American experience, American experiment in democracy. He said, God's work on this earth must truly be our own. So if you are a member of religious faith and you want to see the blessings of God turned into good things, that through public policy, whatever, through laws, social justice programs, whatever, you have to be as a leader, implementing those religious beliefs you have to work the work of God on this planet. And that does not violate the Establishment Clause of the First Amendment. Being a leader who says, I'm going to discern what I think the will of God, who wants there to be justice and fairness, no families going hungry, and turn the public policy. And that was one of the great challenges that President Kennedy laid down on that cold January of 1961, and possibly gave one of the greatest inaugural addresses our country's ever heard. We pass this on to Quilt of Faith.
This is a very good question. I think the best way for us to be the best we can be, regardless of what position we're in. You could be a nonprofit leader, and we have some folks who lead nonprofits in the audience, or you could be in elected office. I think we are too easily drawn into stereotypes in the way we approach other people. It is too tempting to try to compartmentalize other human beings. And I think what we all may need to do, maybe no one else needs to do this, I need to do this all the time. I need to say to myself, look at the person who is in front of you, a human being, regardless of philosophy or party or faith, and work with that person as a human being and see that essence in them, and forget about everything else and just think about what will make their soul sing, what can I responsibly do to help them, and what policies can I implement, knowing we have limited resources and taxpayers can only accept a certain level of burden. But knowing those policies, how do we help these other human beings that we are with? And that can be, it can be somebody who needs mental health care, or someone who needs food, or someone who just needs to know that when they make a complaint, they are listened to. When the county's online land use permit process is in a terrible mess because it's taking us a while to implement it, don't treat someone who's complaining about it as the enemy. Say, you're going through a nightmare and I appreciate it, and we all are very sorry for this, and hopefully we'll get all this sorted out. And oftentimes when you respond that way, rather than denying that there's a problem, you get a very, very gracious response back. But I think it's just see everyone as an individual soul and an individual human being, and work with them on that basis.
You're here. Thanks. All right. How have you seen successful cooperation among religious groups and between religious groups and government?
I'll go again. That's an easy one, and I referred to it before. During COVID-19, we were approached by an organization that worked with the USDA, and they said they had an excess of dairy products. If we would like to have that within our community. And the first response to that is yes, so we could replenish all of our food banks. But the question comes, how do you distribute that? And we reached out to every church in our community, and those churches reach out to other churches. And when that trailer truck came with all of those baggage of produce, we had help from the faith community to packing it onto individual trucks so they can go over throughout Loudoun County to replenish food banks. So again, that was a need. I keep saying the vision comes before the provision. God always have a way to provide for things, and sometimes surprisingly, right? And just by that serendipitous event, we were able to get those food, work with the faith-based community to distribute them across Loudoun County. Just working.
There's many ways I could answer that question, because I've seen so many instances in public policy making where peoples of different religious faiths come together and offer kind of a combined wisdom of that they provide to policymakers trying to do the right thing. I'll share with you one story. When I was down in the General Assembly, there was a bill that came forward to abolish the death penalty in Virginia. And it was interesting because many faith communities came and said, let me tell you what I think about this. And there was an amazingly amount of commonality in faith leaders of many different faiths coming forward, just talking about the morality of the death penalty, not looking at the way lawyers did, what does it stop, is a societal deterrence, focusing on the morality of that. And I was really moved by that. Roman Catholic, Jewish, Islamic, Protestant, Hindu, Sikh, many religions who came and provided their thoughts of that. And after that I thought, this is, the fact there's so much of a commonality of thought between this really pressing matter of public policy made me reflect there's probably many other areas of American policy where we've got this unity of belief in a certain element of public policy brought about by the faith community. And I mention that because I, as a policymaker, a person voting as a legislator,